Russia has warned of a scandal if a Western-backed draft resolution on the situation in Syria is brought to a vote at the UN Security Council.
If they want yet another scandal at the Security Council, then we probably cannot stop them. This is their right. We are not happy with the draft at all, and I hope that it will not be put to the vote, because our amendments to the draft are well known.
Lavrov's comments follow reports that a vote on the draft resolution would come on Saturday. Russia, along with China, has already vetoed an earlier resolution brought by the Council. Moscow says it will not agree to any draft that will amount to regime change or open the possibility of foreign military intervention in Syria. The latest proposed draft backs an Arab call for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to give up power. For more insight on that story, we're joined by political analyst Mr. Kamel Wazni, who's joining us on the line from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Mr. Wazni, welcome to the program. First of all, let's discuss the rift between the members of the UNSC. Russia has made some comments showing its obvious opposition to the draft. It has already stated that the text does not suit Moscow, and if the resolution is brought to vote, it will in fact veto it.
I think the Russians are determined not to repeat the same mistake that they made in Libya, where they gave the umbrella for the West to invade and destroy Libya. Here, the West is trying to get any resolution that imposes heavy embargo, limiting arms sales to Syria, and somehow authorized to use force if necessary. That means launching a war against Syria. I think the Russians would not allow this to happen, knowing the fact that some of these countries were helping the opposition to smuggle weapons into Syria and to prevent any meaningful dialogue between the government of Syria and the opposition. For that, I think the Russians are very determined not to make and repeat the same mistake they made in Libya, and I think they will veto any resolution that does not take their account into consideration.
Mr. Wazni, can you also tell us a little bit about the hypocrisy of the West with the U.S. at its helm regarding the silence being shown towards countries such as Bahrain and Yemen?
Well, these double standards regarding Bahrain, where we see the Saudi machines killing and shooting at civilians, it's an invasion by country to another country. And in Yemen, where the Saudi took a major position with Ali Saleh, the one who killed his people, and now he is treated as the United States and given refugee by the United States, and not to mention Israel that caused havoc in the region. When it comes to the interest of the United States, you can kill the way you like, but when it comes to other countries, the Americans wanted to protect Israel at any cost. The whole pressure on Syria, because Syria stands with the resistance, and somebody in the Obama administration and the Netanyahu government wanted to unblock the operation in Syria, and they want to shut the door of Bashar al-Assad, and that's the whole process. Somebody wanted to guarantee the safety of Israel, and they exposing Syria to all these internal tension and strife, and somebody trying to put Syria in the middle of civil war. They're providing money and they're providing weapons, and they talk about a resolution for Syria. First, the West and the Arab country, the countries of Saudi Arabia and Qatar, they should stop meddling in the business of Syria and stop listening to the America, and not to use their money in a destructive way as they have been for a very long time.
Mr. Wazni, one last question before we leave you. In the broader picture, what is the U.S. and its allies trying to achieve with Syria?
I think the U.S., Israel, and these Arab countries, they wanted to remove the regime of Bashar al-Assad because and put a regime that is loyal to the American, serve the Israeli interests. The bottom line, the Israeli feel vulnerable at this point because the map of the Middle East did not go their way. Americans were defeated in Iraq. The Iranian became very strong, and now we have that corridor that goes from Iran to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon. Somebody want to shut Syria out of that corridor because that will serve Israeli interest, and the American carrying the political dimension of it, and the Arab, they pouring the money, and the Israeli are watching the whole process to see how they can benefit from the destabilizing of Syria and to actually